Hello, my name is Mr. Rhys-Jones and I teach A-level psychology at Ysgol Bryn. Obviously, I should start by explaining briefly what psychology is, seeing as it's quite probable that many of you haven't come across it before. Put simply, it is the scientific study of human behaviour. The truth is, the definition is much more complicated. Because psychology takes into account people's behaviour, any behaviour you show on a daily basis is of interest to a psychologist. Here is a very limited list of some behaviours that have been researched and explained by psychologists. But the truth is, there are significantly more examples that could be given. One psychologist, for example, would be interested in explaining why some individuals are more likely to be aggressive than others, while another may want to develop treatments to cure individuals with depression or anxiety. To do a more interactive example, I would like you to look at the image on the screen now. Don't worry, it's supposed to be out of focus. I want you to continue to look at the image without blinking or moving your eyes too much if possible. After a few seconds, something very strange should happen, and I promise you this isn't video trickery. What you should see happen is that the image disappears from your view very slowly, leaving a grey screen. If you move your eyes, the image will come back again. This effect is called Troxlers fading. This effect shows us how we perceive our environment. In this case, it is visual perception that is affected. This effect occurs because our brain often begins to ignore unchanging stimuli, which in this case is an image that does not move. When this happens, that information disappears from our visual perception until our eyes are moving again. This selection of which stimulus to process is important, as a lot of information is detected by our body every second. If we pay attention to everything, we would quickly become overwhelmed. For example, are you going throughout your day constantly aware of the touch of your clothes on your skin? No. Because this stimulus doesn't change very often, your brain starts to ignore it. This is the general structure of the course across the 2 years. The whole course is divided into 4 units. Units 1 and 2 will be assessed at the end of year 12, and units 3 and 4 will be assessed at the end of year 13. The important point to note here is that all units are assessed by examination. I will focus mostly on discussing the content of year 12, and I will briefly discuss the content of year 13. In the first unit, we're going to study the 5 most influential approaches within psychology. Unlike other sciences, there is no single way of explaining human behaviour. For example, all biologists would agree that evolutionary theory and the role of DNA is the best way to explain the processes of all living things. Similarly, chemists would follow the atomic theory to explain the world around us. Psychology is not like this, as there are many ways to try and explain people's behaviour, and this is what an approach is. So, a biological psychologist would try and explain behaviour on the basis of how different areas of the brain have specific functions linked with those behaviours, where a behavioural psychologist would try to explain behaviour by assuming each behaviour was learnt because of an interaction with the environment. While studying these approaches, here are some of the questions that we will consider. Some psychologists have tried to explain why some individuals may behave in an aggressive enough way to kill another person, by seeing if there is any characteristic difference in these individuals' brain function compared to normal people. Psychologists have also challenged the idea that our memories are clear and accurate, as it is possible to change our perception of an event just by using one word. As I've already noted, psychology aims to use scientific principles to investigate and explain people's behaviours. It's therefore important that you are familiar with these principles. The second unit will introduce you to the main issues that must be considered when planning research to ensure that it follows scientific methods. You will be expected to be able to apply these ideas and discuss them in the context of novel scenarios presented in an exam. While studying this unit, we will see the importance of trying to obtain a sample of participants that are similar as possible to the broader population. Also, how can we ensure that there is a cause and effect relationship between a change in behaviour and the factor being studied? For example, how do we know that a psychological treatment really causes an improvement in, for example, depression? In year 13, you will study 3 specific behaviours from a selection of 6. These 6 behaviours are shown on this slide. You will also have an opportunity to plan and execute a psychological study of your own. Psychology is a very flexible subject, and as it deals with the behaviour of people, it can be applied to a wide range of careers. I have listed some of these on this slide here. As the vast number of pupils have not had any experience of psychology to date, there are no set entry requirements. However, it must be noted that the course is challenging and introduces many new concepts. so a positive attitude towards consistent work is essential to be successful. Also, as some of the subjects are linked, I often advise that pupils can demonstrate a good understanding of science and mathematics, and a good grade in Welsh is also useful, as you will be expected to express ideas clearly, often in essay form. I hope this presentation has given you some flavour of the A-level course. I look forward to meeting you next year.